Welcome to Fear Coded, a podcast where we talk about media from the horror genre and take a queer reading of a single book, video game, film, podcast, or TV show to explore just how queer horror can be. In this episode, we conclude our celebration of all things vampiric and queer during May I Suck Your Blood Month with the story of the lesbian vampire, Carmilla, written by Joseph Sheridan Le Fanu. I'm Marilee.
I'm David.
And I'm Tyler.
And before we succumb to the feeling of sharp injections in our collective breasts, I want to say hello and check in with my co-hosts to find how things are going for them in a landscape of horrors that our real world has to offer. What's making y'all feel scared and what is making you feel prepared? David, let's start with you.
We're starting with me. I am feeling prepared because it is May, and because we have had such a good time with everything going on in our little personal lives, I'm just feeling very content this week. I am bringing a lot of joy in, and of course, not a little bit of that is contributed to the fact that I now have a third way to play Balatro. That's right. It was the PlayStation Plus free game of May, and so I can play it on my phone, I can play it on my Macintosh, and I can play it on my PlayStation. And why have any other video games? There's no need. It's all Balatro. I'm scared because I have learned that the proper way to pronounce the game is Balatero, and I hate that with all of my being.
No, I'm not doing that.
Yeah, that's like saying that it's like GIF instead of GIF.
Sure. And I understand how German works, or Dutch, or whatever that guy was, but like, it's GIF.
Yeah.
Come on now.
And it's Balatro.
It's Balatro. I don't care what language you made this up in.
Balatro.
Although,
more like
I will say,
long.
I have read his entire development logs. He kept like a diary as he was developing the game. And it was a very nice read. More people should publish their diaries.
Aw.
That's just what Twitter is now.
Oh, is it?
No. We should do it in a better way.
Yeah.
Do you want to restart LiveJournal, Tyler? Is that what you want?
I actually do want to start some sort of newsletter or blog about my tabletop RPG thoughts and feelings.
You should do that. I'd love to subscribe.
Yeah, I really want to do it. After the move, I really want to get into that because I'm like, I want to share things that aren't on social media because it's a toxic dump of tragedy. So I'd much rather do it on like a LiveJournal or some other blogging platform because I don't do TikTok. I don't like taking in my information through video. I like reading stuff, and writing helps me put the words the thoughts into words better than if I did it over video. So
I love that.
I would much rather do that. Yeah. I want to talk about like all the things I've like my thoughts just on like DMing and GMing and all that stuff, but also like the campaigns I've run and the things I would do differently if I could do them again and what I learned, and encourage people that like don't like that feel very overwhelmed or something like that, how I process everything. So yeah, I have a lot of thoughts.
I adore that, Tyler. I get a lot of newsletters, and I like all of them.
Well, if I turn this into a newsletter, be sure to sign up.
Or like mailing list or whatever.
Yeah.
I don't really. I mean, Hamish calls his a newsletter, but it's delightful every time I get it.
Aw.
Hamish, come on the pod.
Hamish, come on the pod.
Hamish would totally come on the pod. We just need a Pixelly to ask him to come on for.
Tyler, I'm genuinely so delighted by that.
Yeah, but funny enough, that's not the thing I am prepared or scared for.
Oh, well, what are you prepared or scared for, Tyler?
I'm scared, y'all. My move. It's
Yeah.
move time.
It is move time.
It's move time.
I'm scared of shit.
Yeah. You have to move. You have to like go to the DMV and update your driver's license.
Oh, don't say that.
Figure out how to like get mail, and like you have to like relearn how to take trash out.
Ew.
You have to move.
God, I have to do the change of address shit.
Yeah, well, listen, it's actually really easy to get your mail forwarded. So there's that. It's like a one-page form, or at least it was. God knows what it is now, I guess.
Yeah, but now I also have to like change my address on all the websites that ask for my address, which is like every website now, because we don't have privacy. But yeah, no, I'm scared. about this move. 14 hours of driving.
Mm-hmm.
It's scary.
Yeah.
What about updating your address with your friend who sends you postcards? That, I think, is something that you haven't thought about.
You're right. I should really get that information to him once I figure out what my address is.
It's okay. I'm not going anywhere to send postcards for a while, but soon I will. And I will accidentally send a postcard to Florida.
Don't worry. It'll get forwarded for the first year, so.
I believe you. Postcards are weird, though, Marilee. Sometimes I think people just throw them away. That's why the success rate of me sending postcards is only 60%.
I have all of the postcards you've sent me, and they're on my fridge, and they make me happy every day.
Oh, yay.
Yep, I love looking at mine on the fridge.
Oh, you keep them on the fridge? I love that.
Yeah.
I printed out that picture of the two of you guys in Florida. That's on my fridge with the postcards.
Oh, that's even more precious.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
I opened that picture once to draw Tyler and I, and then I got distracted and drew something else instead.
You're so valid.
Yeah.
That's extremely valid.
I think I took a color palette, and then I was like, I don't want to draw this anymore, and then I tried to draw a squirrel.
You're a delight.
Well, Tyler, I'm sorry for you being scared to move, but move you must. Mm-hmm. There's no going back now. You can't stop.
You can't. And you're going to be so happy in Ohio and out of fucking Florida.
I can't wait to be out of Florida.
As a Florida escapee, God, listen, you're never going to get Cuban food is good, so know that in your heart.
That's true. That's true.
Mourn the loss of good Cuban food, but like everything else is going to be so much better.
That's fair.
Yeah. Well, we are here for you in every step along the way, except to help you actually physically move.
Listen, if
that's
we could,
okay.
we would,
I hired people to do that part for me.
Great choice.
Oh,
Great
fuck!
choice.
You're so smart.
Great choice.
Yeah, not dealing with boxes and all that bullshit.
Are they going to help you unload as well in your location?
Yeah, I hired unloaders too.
You're living the dream.
Do whatever you want, and you should obviously give them cash tips as well. But best choice I've ever made is I bought a box of drumsticks, not like chicken drum, like
the ice creams,
the ice cream ones. Yeah, the ice cream ones. And I just said, "There's ice cream in the refrigerator or the freezer," and they said they were very appreciative of that. We also gave them money.
I also would make sure that they have plenty of like bottled water and stuff.
Yeah, water.
Oh yeah.
Whatever. But like ice cream, they moved better.
Mm-hmm.
I believe that. I love that. That's such a fun little tip.
Yep. It's an easy ice cream to eat too. I think the drumstick is one of the perfect inventions of mankind.
I do love a good drumstick.
God, I wish Nestle didn't suck because they're my favorite ice cream, and now I still do it every now and then, but I feel guilty because I fucking hate Nestle.
Is Drumstick a Nestle thing?
Yeah. They own Nestle.
Okay.
They're owned by Nestle, and frankly, Nestle, if you're listening to this, go fuck yourself.
Yeah.
Nestle, come on the podcast.
Yeah,
come on the podcast so we can beat you.
Entire brand.
Yeah.
With branches.
It's funny because we have essentially what are drumsticks here, but they are not Nestle, of course. Like they are. Every supermarket just has their own type of ice cream that comes in a cone. But it is a common thing to get that if you go out for like a meal in the middle of the day and you buy an all-inclusive meal, like you get an appetizer, you get a lunch, and you get a dessert, the dessert will just be a drumstick that they just bring it to you.
That's
love
awesome.
That. Have that here, nice. Please. Thank you.
Yeah. Like what does it cost? Like 10 cents. And then you get to be like, oh, you got dessert. So
perfect.
Marilee, bring us home. Are you Team David, prepared? Team Tyler, scared? Or a secret third thing?
You know, as much as I'd love to say a secret third thing, because I always love it when things are secret and third, the fact is I am also pretty scared. I'm a little run down. I'm exhausted. I'm really thankful that we're having a break. I've been so fucking busy. My undercut on the back of my neck is growing out again. It's like too long. I've got like the little cowlick curl happening. It's really driving me up a wall. I'm glad that we're having a break because I need some me time to like figure some shit out. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's a good time for us to take a break as a podcast. I think that we've done a good year of podcasting.
Yeah.
It's almost our 1 year anniversary.
Pretty close. We're coming up on it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And
I actually think that
not
when
to brag,
we
but we've got some fun stuff planned for that.
It's possible that when we return from our break, it will actually be our year of recording. anniversary, even if it will not be our episode anniversary.
Yeah, the first episode we recorded was the day after my birthday, so we will be recording pretty close to that.
Pretty close.
Pretty good.
Pretty close.
Pretty good.
Well, Marilee, I hear you. The undercut thing, we know that's bad. We can't let that go any further. You've got to get it taken care of.
Yeah, especially because it's getting so hot here already. Yeah. And I cannot be having hair touching the back of my neck. It's too hot.
Absolutely not.
I feel
Absolutely
that.
Not.
That's why I got all of the sides buzzed off. So now I just have a faux mohawk situation. Because
we celebrated that when it happened, but wow, your hair has grown substantially since we recorded that episode. It's coming back, Tyler. It's coming back.
Yeah, hair, she
back.
Grows, surprisingly.
Mm-hmm.
She grows. Future David, intercut Ricky Martin playing She Bangs, except it's She Grows, She Grows. Do it here.
Future David, you don't have to do that. He's not your boss.
Yeah, that's true. I've never listened to past David. He has no influence over me. But you know what does have influence over me? What we're here to talk about today. Because today we are discussing 1872's Carmilla, a novel or novella which predates Bram Stoker's Dracula by 2 decades. Told as a frame narrative by occult detective Dr. Hesselius, the story focuses on the character of Laura, the object of obsession by the vampire Carmilla. After experiencing a vision of a beautiful woman in her bedchamber during childhood, Laura comes to meet Carmilla after Carmilla's carriage suffers an accident, leaving Carmilla in Laura and her father's care.
The relationship between the two develops after they each realize they experience visions of each other in childhood. Carmilla, who exhibits odd behavior, falls into fits of exaltation over Laura, professing her love for her and overall obsession. Laura has her own strange feelings and experiences, but chooses to hide or otherwise ignore them.
Eventually, Carmilla is discovered to be a vampire who has wreaked havoc throughout the region. A group of men, including Laura's father, track down Carmilla's resting place and kill her. The novella ends with Laura confessing that although she knows Carmilla is dead, she still hears light footsteps outside of her door. Dun dun dun! So what are you guys' relationship with Carmilla?
I have no relationship with this woman. And until, earlier this week, I had never cracked open this novel. I was never aware of it. I didn't even know that it was part of the zeitgeist. This was brand new to me from start to finish.
Yeah, I had heard of Carmilla, and I had heard it was it was the first vampire story, and that was it. And I didn't hear anything else about it. And then suddenly we're getting ready for the pod, and it's oh, she's a lesbian?
Yeah, like a capital L lesbian, like the L word lesbian.
Oh,
yeah. Showtime could never lesbian.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
What? Why isn't this more known? Marilee, as the person who recommended we read this, defend yourself for not making us read it sooner.
Listen, we've been very busy. I don't know how to make this more clear. We've had a lot of stuff going on. So, yeah, I also had never read the novella itself before, but I've known about Carmilla for a very long time. I read Dracula in high school, and I doing research around the time, and I found out about Carmilla, the OG lesbian vampire. And lesbian vampires are a specific subtrope of the vampire phenomenon that I've always found really interesting and fascinating. There is a whole bunch of specifically Hammer horror, but lots and lots of other kinds of lesbian vampire films that came out in the 70s. And I just always thought that was interesting. So again, I knew of her, I knew of her impact, but this was my first time reading through.
I had a couple different ways to read this book, and I'm curious about how you all chose to read this book. Because we have not talked about a book in a little while, a hot minute. But the first thing that I found to read this book is that it is among the works that are available to me completely free from the Spanish government. and I could get a ebook of this, and I even started to read this in Spanish for funsies and practice.
Wow!
And it quickly became apparent that there are some words that are part of this novel that are not words that are part of my Spanish vocabulary yet, and checking the translation every sentence was getting a little tiresome, so I just bought it from Apple for 99 cents.
I mean, honestly, David, like, reading this, some of the words are words not in my English vocabulary.
Girl, I was also translating in the English.
Yeah, for real. This is available in the public domain, so there are lots of ways to read it. You did not have to buy it from anybody.
I mean, it was 99 cents. And who knows where that money went, because it's certainly not the author, who is long, long, long dead.
Very long dead.
That we know of.
I don't know. I got some nice illustrations in the ebook that I bought.
Oh, that's cool. We love an illustration.
Mine also came. So I bought the book as well because I was like, I need to have a physical copy of this thing in front of me, and then I decided, actually, never mind. I'm going to listen to the audiobook version instead. But I did check my physical copy, and I also have pictures.
Yeah.
I love that. But yeah, so you've expressed a lot of trouble with audiobooks in the past, Tyler. What was this experience like for you?
So because I've been packing, I needed something to listen to while I was packing. So I figured, like, okay, well, I think this will be a good way to kind of like knock out two birds with one stone. I don't really have time to sit down and read separately from packing and just trying to relax, I guess, because of all the craziness that's been going on. So I was like, okay, let me do the audiobook. And it actually did work out pretty well. I was able to listen to it while I was working. I was able to kind of like practice being mindful of what I was listening to while I was also doing other stuff. So I would say it was probably like 85% success, 85 to 90. There's some points in the novella where the story drags a bit and then my attention would wander, but I think that would happen either way, like if I had it in front of me versus any other way.
You're so valid.
Yeah.
Yes. How did you listen to it, Marilee? Or how did you...
Yeah, you nailed it. I did audiobook it for sure. Because I love audiobooks. I've got so much shit that I need to be doing. Simply being able to do two things at once, read a book and do anything else, is so fucking key to my life. I will say, I did fall asleep listening to this twice, so I had to like go and like read like a chapter again, but that was just more to do with the fact that I was like listening to it at like 10 o'clock at night while I was playing my Switch, because this was the only time I had free all fucking day, the day that this was. So sure, it was a little boring and dragged a little bit, but like this had nothing to do with the book. It was just I was tired. I was a sleepy little baby.
I also fell asleep while reading the book, but I got to the end of a chapter and it was 1:30 a.m. and I was like, time for bed. So I don't know that the book put me to sleep, but I just think that like if you are sleepy, you will sleep. And there are some books that I think you can read and be like, I will put off the nature of sleep in order to keep engaging with this media. And while this was good, it was not, I will put off sleep to continue going.
No.
Yeah, for sure.
And I will tell both of you that the written copy, once we get to them sort of being with the general and him recounting his story, it was very confusing what was recounting and what was live. Maybe it was confusing in the audiobook as well, but I kept being like, do I have to like draw a line of like the quotation so I know what's actually a quotation? Because we were doing things with quotation marks that were unholy in chapter 7 and 8. Just like a quotation, a single apostrophe, and then another single apostrophe inside that single apostrophe. Girls, I could not. I was tired.
That is insane. That is insane behavior.
I know,
like
grammar should not be something that's used as like a weapon of oppression and is not colonialist or anything. But God, having grammar rules to allow for consistency in the modern day is very helpful.
Well, and the translation, maybe you know this, maybe you don't, but the Spanish don't use quotation marks. We use an M dash to indicate dialogue. And so there is a related indentation. So that section would have been easier to read in Spanish, though again, they were saying words that I barely knew in my mother tongue, let alone my new country tongue. I could not. I should stop talking about my tongue. That's inappropriate on the podcast.
It actually did. Oh my. It actually did kind of help processing the really complicated words, having someone read them aloud, because
that's fair.
Yeah.
the context makes a little bit more sense.
And
but otherwise,
you can find out how to pronounce them at the same time.
Yeah, because there's
That's
some
true.
crazy ass. There's
Yeah.
this Le Fanu was writing something.
Those were words allegedly.
Yeah.
And okay, it's 1870 something when he starts writing this. I was getting some big like Charles Dickinson, every word I write matters to my end payoff, because sometimes I was like, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
we're Le Fanu, I get it.
Yeah.
Like, it wasn't quite the forest in Lord of the Rings,
Mhm.
but it wasn't too far from that. There were just sometimes that like Laura would be like, are you curious why I'm recollecting this story? Well, let me tell you a little bit of my recollections of this story, the story that I'm recollecting to you. Here we go with my story, my recollection, my story, recollecting story.
What did
Maybe
you
like
guys
Laura.
think of Laura, by the way?
I mean, I loved her.
Yeah.
I thought she was a great narrator character.
I thought so
love that.
too.
Yeah, I had a lot of fun with Laura's narration, her observations. I liked that she felt like a child.
Mm-hmm.
She was written by a man,
Mhm.
and I think the lesbian of this all becomes very interesting when you think about the male author. But I thought she was well captured. I don't know how well captured as a female voice she was, but the adolescence of it all did play really nice to me.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
get that.
Well, let's talk a little bit more about Laura and Carmilla, because they're all wrapped up in our very first theme, which is the monstrous feminine. So throughout literature, a recurring theme about women is fear. I don't mean that they're constantly afraid, rather, men are afraid of women. Thus, we have one of the most discussed themes in literary analysis, the monstrous feminine. In brief, the monstrous feminine is the idea that women are not angelic creatures meant to be subservient to men. Instead, a woman is an entity to be feared, especially one who ventures outside the confines of society's idea for women. The monstrous feminine is independent, empowered by her physicality, and dangerous, both in terms of her physical threat and the ideas she represents. Carmilla is a fantastic example of the monstrous feminine. She is ruled by her emotions. She has power in her physical bodies to seduce, feed, and kill. Her origins are mysterious, and, most dangerous of all, she's a lesbian.
It's the Lilith factor.
And I don't understand that reference barely. What is the Lilith factor? Is this a demon I should know?
Okay, so the idea is, like, this is non-canonical, but there is a story in certain ancient texts about Lilith, who was Adam's first wife. The idea is that they were both created at the same time, and when, like, God was like, okay, this is your wife, Adam, her name is Lilith, and she's there to be subservient to you, and Lilith was like, thank you, no, I actually don't want to do that. And so she, like, walked off into the wilderness to become, like, this mother of demons or whatever, and then Eve was created when God took Adam's rib and then made woman, who is subservient to men because she's, part of him and all of that jazz.
Yeah. So I was only familiar with the name as per Fraser's ex-wife, and that she was demonic, and that was a tongue-in-cheek reference that there is some demonic force named Lilith.
Mm-hmm.
But this is helpful. Also, thank you for using canonized in the appropriate way to refer to the Bible, and not this other nonsense canon that I have to deal with every time I research something for gimmicks. Is this canon? Is this canon? Ugh, God.
Gimmicks, by the way, is an
Gutenberg.
incredible show here on Glitterjaw that is also has David in the co-host chair. That's one of my favorite podcasts.
Yes, where Derek and I are subjected to people asking if things are canon. Ugh. Okay, but this is canon in that we're dealing with the monstrous feminine. I really adored how scary Carmilla is, and yet how sometimes my girl was just walking around and being like, oh, a bench, that's what I need. It's just to sit down. And so not only was she scary, not only was she representing the sort of way in which we are meant to fear the feminine, but, like, she was also a tired bitch, and I love that.
Yeah, sometimes a bitch is a little sleepy, and I love that.
Yeah, she was a sleepy bitch.
Yeah. Chronic fatigue, no joke.
It really is not.
I don't I'm not surprised, but I did, not to go back to January, but I was a little surprised that we didn't get any menstruation.
See, this was a book written by a man, so it's not like he knew what that is, probably.
Okay. Wild. Not that I needed there to be a menstrual scene. I just thought two girls, they felt developmentally like they were at a place where they should either have started their cycle or at least would be aware of it, or maybe one of the
she's 18. Laura's 18.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Well then, yeah, unless this is a Carrie White situation, she has had her period.
Yeah.
I mean, I think you could make the connection between menstruation when Carmilla is depicted as being covered in blood, and her coffin, she's resting in 2 inches of blood. Mm-hmm. So there is a connection between the feminine and blood.
I like that. That.
So I think that's still
it's a totally valid pull. Laura is written in such a way where she is so sheltered and childish. I completely understand where you're coming from, where you view her as younger, but I do think it is important to point out that Laura is an 18-year-old, technically adult woman. And I think that's an interesting point.
She's a Bluth, because my girl's got Arrested Development all up and down the world.
I mean, I think it's one of those things where, she is 18. They're both depicted as, around the same age. I actually also thought that maybe they were 14, 15, because I think Le Fanu kind of wrote them that way because he was thinking about women as being maybe less mature and trying to think of them maybe as more vulnerable, especially Laura, who's pretty ignorant to what is going on with Carmilla for most of the story. Yeah, so I think it's easier to encapsulate that and for us to think about it as they must be younger teens. But I mean, no matter what age, 18 is also a totally prime to make that connection between menstruation, because it's okay, well, now she is fully coming into her womanhood. And I think, Carmilla also represents that alternative way of being when you become a woman. So you could become more like Laura and stay an angel in the house, which is another concept that's popularly associated with vampires and women. And the monstrous feminine. And then, of course, you could also become a Carmilla, who is much more in touch with the physical, material side and the passionate side and the part that lusts after someone in a almost masculine type manner. So
I like that a lot.
Yeah.
I like that a lot.
Yeah, the monstrous feminine, it's a really big concept that we could probably dedicate a whole month just to talking about that.
Or there are podcasts that do just monstrous feminine stuff, Plug It Up, which you've talked about several times before. They start with monstrous menstruation, but they have moved to the full monstrous feminine of it all. So that's another thing to keep in mind if you're interested in this theme.
Yeah. So, but it is extremely relevant to what we're talking about today. So we'll definitely be talking about this more as we go. But connected to the monstrous feminine and Laura and Carmilla and their relationship is our next theme, which is Harold, they're lesbians. Which shout out to all my Tumblr people for catching that one. So queer people are oftentimes coded as villains. That's where we get the name of this podcast. Carmilla is definitely the villain of the story, but it's fascinating to see how she behaves and how she works. So often in vampire fiction, the draw to vampirism is a seduction. We saw this before with the Lost Boys in Interview with the Vampire, and Carmilla may be the trope maker for this concept. Interestingly, the idea of a gay vampire in the Victorian era is pretty unique, and it's certainly a horrific idea for the audience of the day. European vampires preying on English women, and they're gay? The horror. Laura is an interesting character in this regard. She's our window into the world, and she's also the classic vampire victim. One part horrified to one part intrigued. While it's easy for a modern audience to see Laura as a queer character realizing her own queerness, Laura herself is totally lost in that regard. Still, Le Fanu writes Laura's feelings as undeniably erotic. Laura herself is obsessed with Carmilla, though she internalizes these feelings, whereas Carmilla explodes with them.
Yeah, absolutely. The way that this is written is just compulsory heterosexuality all over. She doesn't understand what's going on or these feelings because she's never even considered that there might be a possibility for anything other than just being a heterosexual. And like, that's got hands in this story. Like the way that like she has to fight her own internalized compet of it all, you know?
Yeah. And like, I think that's a perfect way to describe it too, is that she just doesn't have the words for what she's experiencing. And so she associates them with like confusion and anger, or also just a desire to be Carmilla or be like her, and just obsessed with her beauty as though she were like a flower. But it clearly goes beyond that, and clearly Laura is experiencing way more of that attraction than she realizes.
100%.
Yeah, and I never really got... It never felt like, oh, I shouldn't be doing this because this is a woman. It almost seemed like I shouldn't be doing this because this is a guest. It felt more like hospitality than it felt like forbidden love. Like it almost felt like we were trying to excuse this as like, oh, I don't want to misunderstand you. You don't want to misunderstand me. We're so close to misunderstanding. And yet it also felt, it was, we had talked about these being lesbian vampires, so it wasn't like surprise lesbians for me when reading it. And yet the intimacy was so deep between the characters that I was a little surprised, because I was expecting more like, no, we can't. And that wasn't really there in that way.
Yeah,
it's a little Wuthering Heights-esque. Like Carmilla is kind of Laura's Heathcliff, but Laura herself is not really Catherine. Like Catherine, I think, is closer to a Carmilla, because in Wuthering Heights, Carmilla. Oh my God, I'm mixing up all my Victorians. Catherine is more in touch with the emotions after spending time with Heathcliff, and Laura still seems to be like somewhat resistant, or really kind of like just further and further under the sway of Carmilla, instead of like appreciating her feelings for what they are as her own person.
I'm sure if you've read Wuthering Heights, that made a lot of sense.
Yeah. But
I was trying to follow. I know who Heathcliff is.
Yeah, if you listen to Wuthering Heights by Kate Bush, then you got the concept.
Stop.
Oh my God.
Wow.
Everybody either read 400 pages or listen to 4 minutes of a song.
It's Kate Bush. You'll enjoy it. It's fine.
Yeah, it's Kate Bush. Y'all, if you're listening to this podcast, you probably like Kate Bush. I'm going to be real.
Yeah, you're probably gay. If you listen to this podcast and Kate Bush, and you're like, no, I'm just doing these things because they're fun. Okay.
I think you should examine your own compulsory heterosexuality, frankly.
Yeah, that's what you should. You should examine your own compulsory heterosexuality.
To all the Lauras out there, we love you, we see you, and we recognize you, and we'll be here for you when you're ready to step out.
Come out.
Yeah, for real. Laura is such an interesting character. Because she's written as so sheltered and so unknown, you know what I mean, about like what's going on in the world and in herself. I just think she's a really interesting person to have as our narrator.
And then you have Carmilla, who is very like not worldly. She doesn't really exhibit any like knowledge of culture outside of where she is, but she definitely seems to be more experienced and therefore more in touch with her emotions. It's just that she seems to either not be totally in control of them, because she describes her, like Laura describes her as being cold sometimes, but there is some knowledge of like, I know with certainty that you are what I want. And I think someone who's been around the block a few times is more likely to develop that kind of certainty versus someone like Laura, who's really waffling on like well, I feel this type of way about you, but I'm also kind of grossed out by you, and I don't really know why, but I still am very allured to you.
Right.
Yeah, there's a quote in this novella where Laura is like kind of pushing against Carmilla's like refusal to talk about her past, and she was like, you've definitely been in love. Like I can sense that there's like a romance about you. And Carmilla shuts it down very definitively, and she says like, I have never been in love. But if I was in love, it would be with you. Like they're gay, Harold. They're lesbians.
It was so hot. It was so hot.
Yeah.
That whole sequence was like, no, I've never found anyone who loved me but it would be you. I was like, oh no. Oh no.
The seduction mama.
It was perfect. I was so happy about it.
Oh man, they're so gay in this book. Well, the last theme that we're going to talk about, and then we're going to jump into our, the questions that we always ask on this pod. This theme is the old world and the new. So the heritage of vampire literature is imbued with xenophobia. Le Fanu, an Irishman, goes to some length to describe how English his main characters are. Laura and her father insist on practicing English to maintain it while they live in Austria. A servant of Carmilla's is a person of color and unfortunately described as a racist caricature. The people of Styria, where Laura, her father, and Carmilla all live, are well versed in occult lore, although the upper class folks view such beliefs with skepticism until it is convenient for them to believe in that occult knowledge. The Victorian era was a time of great technological and cultural change. Victorians thought of themselves as being the peak of culture. They would make the future and cast down old beliefs and superstitions from Europe. The idea that their perfect society could be infiltrated by relics of the old world to corrupt their women would have been quite horrifying.
Absolutely. Though, again, Victorians are doing their own wild shit in pursuit of the new. Like mummy unwrapping parties. Google that if you want like a deeply disturbing 30 minutes.
No, I don't want that. I don't want that at all, Marilee. I think you don't even know me. You don't even know me if you were to suggest that. Unwrapping a mummy? No, absolutely.
That's the worst. Not even the worst of what they be doing with that fucking mummy. I'll tell you what.
Yeah, the English. I mean, we know the English is colonialism, and it is. I think when reading this at first, I was like, "Oh yes, English-speaking expats are in a foreign country and not learning the language that they live in." And then I was like, "Oh, I can't even read this book in Spanish because I don't know enough Spanish." Wow,
you're learning it though. You're learning it though.
I am.
David.
And you're frankly, like in the book, they even specifically say we're doing this to not lose our culture.
Yes. Yeah. This is a bridge too far. This is the vibe of many English-speaking colonials, is to just be like, well, the whole world belongs to us, so we'll just show up and do our thing. The other part of the old that makes this big, there's the exploration of like the art that they keep in the house, all the descriptions of the house and its stately manner and the things they keep around. It does have this very vibe that when I was picturing it in my mind's eye, I was like on the moors. I was doing some like Hobbs Barrow shit, and they are probably actually in a very picturesque forest that's far more like Sleeping Beauty than it is like desolate and foggy. And yet, because they were British and because there's so much of the Isles in this, it was hard for me to separate that from where they actually were.
Speaking of where they actually were, I went out to dinner this week with my sister, and we were talking about it, and I was like, yeah, I'm doing a recording this weekend for Carmilla. I had no idea, but my sister loves Carmilla, and we talked about it for a good bit. And I tried to make a silly little jokey joke, because they mention quite a bit in the beginning part of this story about this row of lime trees that they have. And that kept giving me a little giggle. So I tried to make a joke about this. And she really put my head in a different direction about this. And I'd love to share this insight with you guys. Specifically about this theme even. Because apparently in that time period, limes are actually a bit of a wealth indicator, because they're more expensive than oranges and lemons. So having a whole row of lime trees outside of their house is really kind of drilling in the fact that, like, as she says earlier in the story, like, their money goes farther here in what is it? Striga or whatever? Styria. The money goes farther here in Styria, and so they have a row of lime trees. And even though there's no way they would be supported in that climate, I thought that was a really fun and interesting thing. And then the other thing is that limes primarily grew in that time period in Asia, which, that's right, baby, it all comes back to Orientalism here. And like Styria is a mysterious, vaguely Eastern place, and that's why we have these Oriental themes, which comes up a lot in early Victorian vampire literature.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's
xenophobia,
important.
mama.
It's the xenophobia. And I thought that would be important to call out around here. Also,
I mean, Nosferatu's got that. And Nosferatu's got that too. Like, that's all about the strange, primitive folk horror, really, kind of, that's lingering still in the dark places of the world. Mm-hmm. And it's coming for you. That's the fear behind this all. And we're going to talk about this a lot when we get to Dracula someday. But this is definitely like a great opportunity to kind of look at these themes and see how universal they are to vampire lore. I mean, we just had that also with Interview with the Vampire, where Lestat is coming from France and he's technically invading America.
Yes, as you should.
Yes. Wait, what?
Get it, Lestat.
You can't say that. David, we still live here. They'll kill us.
Lestat did nothing wrong. Lestat literally is wrong. He does everything wrong.
He's constantly doing everything wrong.
But I'm going to make a t-shirt that says Lestat did nothing wrong.
David, I guarantee you, like, so many legions
Definitely
of fangirls
exists.
for the last several decades have beat you to the punch.
Yeah, they probably have. That's true.
Honestly, I swear to God, I, right now in this moment, want nothing more than there to be fans in season 3 of the Interview with the Vampire show for, like, people to be at Lestat's concert wearing Lestat did nothing wrong shirts. Oh my God, I want that so bad.
I hope it happens. But for now, we have some questions that we need to evaluate. This 1872 novel, for our consideration on the podcast, there are 2 things that we always ask, and the first among them is, was this book horror? Were you scared while reading it? Were the vibes there? What do y'all think about this being an entry in the horror world?
Spooky.
Yeah, I thought the vibes were vibing.
Yeah, like, a lot of it is, like, it's peak, gothic romance. So it's, like, it's really about the vibes, the energy, the setting, but the points where it's scary are scary as fuck. Like, sleep paralysis, creepypasta kind of bullshit's happening.
The third act, or whatever you want to call, pretty much since when the general comes back to the end of the novel, which also is where we put the accelerator on the novel, that was really scary. Like, we were digging up corpses and we were talking to a woodsman who was like, oh yeah, I behead these bitches all the time. We're vampire hunters. And I was like, what is going on? 2 pages left in this book. That's not possible.
And I just met the vampire hunters in Baldur's Gate 3, like, right after I finished reading. Well, so it's like, I'm there right now.
World is full circle. World is full circle. Lestat did nothing wrong. Asterion did nothing wrong.
Yeah.
Asterion did do nothing wrong. He was a bit silly, but he did nothing wrong.
He disapproves when I say something nice to people.
Well, he's your Morrigan insert. What can you do, Tyler?
I do love Morrigan so much. What did they do to her in Veilguard? I'm so mad about that. That's not the point.
Anyway. Yeah, I don't know. I would say yes to horror. I not only the vibes, but, like, as you've mentioned, the gothic of it all. This was like a hair's breadth away from being Jane Eyre a couple times. Mm-hmm. And then there was, like, literally this vampire girl and people dying of mysterious illness all across the countryside. I know what that means.
Only young ladies were dying, though, just as a point out, because, of course, Carmilla is a fucking lesbian, and she was only going after the young pretty girls.
I like the idea of her, like, finding a dude who's bleeding out and being like, ugh, no, I can wait. I don't need to eat this.
Yeah, I'm not that hungry.
Yeah.
I'm still full from breakfast.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, well, speaking of, though, there's that other thing that we need to discuss in this moment here while we're asking questions. And this one might seem a little bit obvious, but we gotta ask it anyway. Was this queer?
I mean, I think it's, like, one of the foundational building blocks of not just, like, queer characters in horror, but also the coding of queer characters in horror. It was gay textually and it was gay subtextually. Mm-hmm. So I don't know. It was a pretty exciting read. Outside of Carmilla and a little bit of Laura, there aren't really that many other characters.
There are a couple, like props that kind of move around through the scenes, but Carmilla, Laura, and her dad are the only, like, actual characters most of the time, it feels like.
Yeah, and so I'm ready to declare, like, everyone in the novel game, because it's just, like, 2 lesbians and, like, the people who, like, serve them in their lives.
Also gay.
Yeah.
Serving? Hello?
It's pretty stuff.
Serving? Hello?
Oh my god. I can't.
Work.
I can't. Yeah, I don't know. I wish there was more to discuss here, but I think as we go through the novella, it's going to be pretty clear what the parts of this that are queer are, and I think that, like, that makes it kind of unique in the things that we've talked about, because usually what we're trying to unearth and what I would expect to unearth visiting a novella from 1872 would be a little bit more of the things that are like, yes, a bachelor, or whatever. But no, it's just kind of on the page.
Yeah. And I mean, like, I love that, and it's easy to see, like, Le Fanu, he's not here. Le Fanu's not here, obviously, he's dead. But
Yes.
It's interesting to think of, like, he didn't intend for this to come across as something so horrifying, because the lesbianism of it would have been scary enough for the Victorians. But, like, it feels legit in some ways, like an actual legit sort of lesbian or just queer relationship, with the behavior, the dialogue. Now, it's toxic as fuck, don't get me wrong, but just how queer it is comes through so transparently.
You know, I think there is something, before we move on, that we should probably discuss, which is the fact that Victorians didn't think that queer women existed. Like, it was you know, illegal to be a gay man, and Oscar Wilde was convicted of that. But there was no law on the books about queer women, because that wasn't a thing. So I do think that adds a fun other layer of complexity here, because it's horrifying, these unnatural urges, but, like, it could potentially be viewed in the same way of vampirism, because that's also just a horrifying element that's not real.
Yeah. I like that.
It's a good point, Marilee. It's a really good point. Yeah, and like, lesbians do exist, and they are real.
Yeah.
You should have paid attention to them. But I'm glad you didn't jail them like you did Oliver Wilde. So I guess
Oscar Wilde.
Oscar Wilde.
Yeah,
Oliver Wilde.
Poor
Olivia
guy.
Wilde is what I'm going with that.
2 years hard labor. Rough time.
We should do Picture of Dorian Gray someday.
I would love to. And, you know, I really can't wait to talk more about Oscar Wilde when we talk about Dracula eventually.
But for right now, we're talking about Carmilla.
We sure are.
For right now, we're talking about Carmilla. So let's jump into the novel in earnest. After a brief prologue establishing the frame narrative, we begin Laura's story. Laura and her father are English expatriates living in a castle in Austria. One night, in her childhood, Laura had a vivid vision of a beautiful girl standing beside her bed. The girl laid with Laura and caressed her, but eventually Laura woke up, feeling as though she had 2 puncture marks in her breast. Years later, Laura and her father are out for a stroll. General Spielsdorf, a friend of her father's, has canceled his trip to visit after the death of his niece. It would seem she fell ill and died after they took in a guest, and now Spielsdorf's mission is to hunt down this fiend. Around the same time, a carriage and its attendants crash nearby. An elegant older woman speaks to Laura's father while the attendants carry out an unconscious beautiful girl. Soon after, the woman and the carriage leave, with the girl now in the care of Laura's household.
What an insane way to start.
Oh, totally. Just coming out of the gate crazy style. Like, we've got a frame narrative. Turns out this Dr. Hesselius, who is the one that's like, these are his notes, or it's all part of a case that he's doing, is like the first occult detective in literature.
Okay, I had a little trouble with that part of the frame, because I was like, who is this guy? And
I know.
I was just like, oh, it doesn't matter who he is. Okay, well, that's fine.
It's cool as like a trivia point, but it does kind of feel like a weird choice. I think it's interesting in that it adds like another layer of complexity, and it makes it feel a little bit more like, oh, this really happened, because we're looking at like actual case files from and reading the letters.
Quick question. Is Carmilla a found footage horror?
Wow.
I would say no. I would say Dracula is closer to found footage.
Interesting.
Wow.
I think this is...
Well, isn't any epistolary sort of a found footage thing?
I mean, I guess so, but this isn't an epistolary.
This isn't an epistolary. Only the prologue is an epistolary.
This is like
supposedly like Laura's diary or whatever, collected notes or something. Like she later was. I mean, it's not technically. I mean, to be found footage, you have to be video anyway. But like the prologue gives that same feeling of this is a real true story. I found this document that tells everything, and I'm telling it to you.
It feels closer to a movie that says inspired by true events, and then it's just like a regular narrative.
Yes, that was the vibe. That you know what? It was very that is exactly what it is, Tyler.
I think Dracula, when we get to Dracula, we'll see that in more detail, because the novel Dracula is the summation of letters that were written by the characters in Dracula. So I think that's a little bit more in like the found footage. So yeah, we'll put a pin in that one, because I definitely want to talk about that when we someday talk about Dracula.
Not that I was too thrown off, because I regained my balance pretty quickly, but when I was first kind of going into it, I was like, oh, Laura becomes a doctor. Oh my god, there's a lady doctor in this too? God, this guy was just like, go women, you can do anything, be lesbian vampires and doctors. And then I sort of like had to work backwards and be like, oh, that was just a totally separate person, any person we never meet.
But I think it should be noted that Laura is apparently dead when the story starts.
Oh, that is keen. I did not really then understand that. That is actually really nice. Does that also then call into question the time period that this was? Because I guess I was sort of thinking about this as contemporary, but it could even be 50 years earlier.
Perhaps,
Laura survived.
There's some talk of like people in wigs and powdered wigs and such, which I think would have been more common in the earlier part of the 1800s.
I believe you. I don't ever know when Central Europe started and stopped that stuff. It's really... You're
so valid.
It's hard.
If, Laura is dead during the whole of the when these notes are compiled, I mean, she does say that she still hears Carmilla, so how exactly did Laura die, one could ask.
There's some weird problematic details about vampirism at the end of the story that might help answer that, so...
Okay. I can suspend my disbelief, as I did while reading it. I was just like, cool, got it. Notes, check.
Well, then, I'd really like to talk about this vision that she has in childhood.
Me as well. Moi aussi. Is French for me as well.
Oh.
It's terrifying, so but it's also very intimate.
It's so intimate. It is. That's the thing. Is the terrifying... I think that the part that was scariest to me was her showing up next to the bed. That's scary. But then the second scariest part was the maids or the governesses coming in and being like, no, this side of the bed is warm. I didn't like that either.
Yeah.
Everything else in the middle, the meat in the sandwich was all just like snuggles. This was like a quick makeout session.
Yeah. Oh, but then this woman slithers under her bed, like at the foot of the bed, extremely Babadook coded.
Yeah,
that was scary too.
Yeah.
Good on Le Fanu
for picking out what the fucking scariest image could possibly be.
Right.
But
no, just the text that Carmilla sends, you up, girl. Like, that's fine. That part was fine. Come snuggle. They fall asleep next to each other. It's super cute. And then yes, when somebody comes in and she like yeets herself under the bed and like out of existence, I didn't care for that either.
No, and then I think that like the governess and all of the servants being like, yeah, no, everything's fine. Holy shit, what the fuck happened? Holy shit. That was really fun and very creepy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And there's two major governesses that they really just call the Mademoiselle and the Madame. And I think that they were trying to add some characterization of these two, and I'm just too dumb to get it. So in my mind, they were the same person all the time.
Me too.
And I think it worked with that reading. But I think the Madame is supposed to be a little bit more like into believing that there's supernatural things in the world, and I kind of expected that to pay off eventually, and I never really felt like it did, which is fine.
They're there. They're just
they're
props.
There. Oh, they're
basically.
totally there.
They're ghosts. They're cardboard cutouts that are there to move in the background while the lesbian vampires are happening. They don't really matter.
Yeah.
And then the carriage accident.
The carriage accident. Well, first of all, even the news, I liked the whole thing where Laura's like, oh my god, I get to have a friend. A friend is coming. My friend is coming over. My friend is coming over.
And they're bringing a new friend.
Yes.
Like, but the excitement of excitements.
She was like, oh, my friend's not coming over because she did.
Yeah.
That was pretty rough. And then when the carriage crash happened and like a young girl gets out of the carriage, I was like, oh, well, that's our girl. Like that's like the titular Carmilla, right?
Very Lilo and Stitch, with Lilo praying to have a friend show up.
Send me the nicest angel you have.
Exactly. But I did like the excitement that Laura had, because that's what felt childlike to me, because I think at 18 I was like, leave me alone, which I have not ceased being for 24 years now. Just absolutely leave me alone.
Mm-hmm.
But when I was a child, I was like, yay, friendship and happiness and rainbows. And that's kind of what Laura was giving me as well. And I liked that.
Me too.
But the carriage does come. It does crash. And let's talk about
that. Very heavily orchestrated but effective means of Carmilla.
Yeah. And like, we never see this woman again, though she does pop up in like the story from the general later.
Exactly.
So I have a lot of questions about who she is and what her relationship is to Carmilla.
Yeah, I mean, my read is that she was another vampire,
right? She has to be.
Yeah.
I thought maybe she was like vampire spawn, like subservient to Carmilla. Like Carmilla is the one in charge here.
Mm-hmm.
Because we'll talk about that more in the next section. But there's definitely something going on with this carriage and the glamour, and perhaps not all is as we see, which builds off of what I talked about last week with the interview with the vampire, where it's like the vampire. I love it when the vampire seems more and more powerful and mysterious with each exhibition of their power, because it just makes them feel like omnipotent and like, oh my god, how am I going to beat this? This is not an entity. This is a force of nature.
I do love that.
Right. Mm. And she is a force of nature.
A force of lesbian nature.
I was going to say exactly that, Marilee.
Is this where we get the caricature of the person?
No, so that's in the next section. Okay. So let me talk about that now.
Sorry. Go ahead.
So the girl awakens, and we come to learn that her name is Carmilla. Carmilla is placed in her own room, and Laura finds out from her father that the woman he spoke to from the carriage is actually Carmilla's mother. According to her mother, Carmilla's health is delicate, and her behavior is sometimes odd, but she's perfectly sane. Very legit, normal things to say to someone, by the way, about your daughter. Mm-hmm. Carmilla is also beautiful and about Laura's age. Later, after Carmilla has been examined by a doctor, Laura realizes that Carmilla is the girl she saw in her vision as a child. When Laura speaks to Carmilla, Carmilla confesses that she also saw Laura in a vision in her childhood. Laura in the vision was the same age as Laura now, but Carmilla was still young, and Laura's appearance comforted her. The two laid in bed together, but eventually Laura screamed and frightened Carmilla out of bed. She eventually woke up in her own nursery. Laura feels mixed emotions. While she is drawn to Carmilla by her beauty, she cannot help experiencing revulsion as well. Still, the draw to Carmilla wins out. So this is the scene this is the section where we hear from the Mademoiselle's perspective of the crash. And this is where we get the super racist caricature of the woman that is allegedly Carmilla's mother.
No, so there's a third woman who's in the carriage, and she is described in the most shockingly racist terms. Like, this is the thing that I kept going back to, because like there was nothing, la yada da, oldie book, really shocking racism, and then also just talking about like the servants, who are like dealing with the horses and stuff, and then it just goes on like it was fucking nothing.
Yeah, and because that character then also never came back, I was like, would I, as an audience member in 1872, be like, oh, there is a person with darker skin in the back of this carriage. I then am to interpret mysticism or whatever off of the very existence of someone who's not white. Or like that's the part that really hung for me, is that like, okay, a racist caricature from an Irish author in the late 19th century, like Florals for spring, groundbreaking. But like, I'm sorry, like the Irish, come on. But the never then using that character, I think, is why I was like, so then what? So then what happened with this? Was it just an unused character, or do you think we were supposed to interpret something just because of how they were described that then eluded me because I'm like barely evolved, but at least better than being a reader in the 1870s?
Well, I thought that woman was the woman that was glamored up to be Carmilla's mother. So it looked like Carmilla's mother to Laura's father and Laura, but then to Mademoiselle, she could see through the glamour because the glamour was not affecting her, only Laura and Laura's father.
Interesting.
Okay, well that
so the way I read it is like there were three women. There was Carmilla, who was carried out of the carriage. There was the woman who was described so shockingly, and also Carmilla's mom, who was talking with Laura's dad while that was all happening.
I truly and honestly cannot remember what I thought it was a different person, but now that Tyler has said what he has said, I can totally get the vibes that that's what happened, even though I don't know what to make of that either, but it's at least something different.
Yeah, no, maybe it's supposed to be like a witch who's like casting the spell or something. I don't know.
I love a witch.
We love a witch. It'd be fun if a witch was working with lesbian vampires, I guess, which things were slightly less racist, but what are you going to do?
That would be delightful. I love a witch.
Oh, no, I think it is a third woman. Did you remark a woman in the carriage after it was set up again who did not get out, inquired Mademoiselle, but only looked from the window. So yes, it is a third woman. I do think it is meant to be witchcraft. I think it is meant to be like super fucking racist, stereotypical, like, oh, this is a person that we got from, somewhere in Africa, and she knows all of this horrible racist assumptions of magic and culture and stuff. Like she's a witch doctor.
Okay, so there is a little bit of Eastern European way of fetishizing Northern Africa that does work on that level, but would sort of even elude an Irish reader in this time period. Like it's sort of writing for a very local audience in a weird way. But I don't know. The whole thing is pretty wild.
I mean, it's exactly like you said, Florals for spring. Oh no, like a British person or an Irish person, someone from the British Isles was racist about someone. And I think it's also is like, I think it also plays into this idea that like black slave women or like black servant women have some sort of witchcraft knowledge from their ancestors. We see that with Tituba in The Crucible, which, was based off of a real person from the Salem witch trials. We had the woman in the attic, who I don't remember, from Jane Eyre, who is a black woman, I believe, from, that Mr. Rochester was married to. I think she was.
She was mixed, so I guess
so either way, she was a woman of color.
Yeah.
I totally believe you. Even though I have quoted Jane Eyre many times on this, I remember shockingly little about Jane Eyre, except that there was a woman in the attic, and she caused a fire.
She did cause a fire.
And I say, good for her.
There's a book called The Wide Sargasso Sea, I'm pretty sure.
Yep.
That is, like, a very interesting book if you're interested in Jane Eyre, because it takes place from her perspective, and you never get her name either, which I thought was very interesting.
Yeah.
Well, this is all fun, but what I'll just say is don't write racist caricatures in your novels, especially if you want them to be talked about by somewhat lefty queer people in
hundreds of years later.
160 years later, 150 years later.
Just don't be racist.
Just don't be racist.
Then you won't have to worry about it.
That'd be better.
Yeah.
But she's gone. The doctor comes. I love that. I love this sort of the girls revealing the secret to each other and knowing what I learned. I was sort of already suspecting that Carmilla was a vampire because the book is named after her and this was like a vampire month. But Carmilla is playing it so well here of being like, oh my god, I had the same dream. Can you believe it? Let's snuggle some more. Just good job, girl. Good job.
Right.
We love a problematic queen.
Very, very problematic.
Love her. So Laura describes Carmilla's emotions and behaviors. Carmilla does not share much information about her past, except she does come from an ancient and noble family somewhere west of where Laura lives. Carmilla goes through mood swings. At times she is cold to Laura, at other times she cannot repress her feelings for her. Laura herself experiences a mixture of emotions, love and adoration, mingled with revulsion and abhorrence. Carmilla also exhibits strange behaviors at home, such as locking her door from the inside, rising from bed in the afternoon, and taking only a cup of chocolate, and eating nothing else. Local folks irritate Carmilla. A funeral procession of singers frustrates Carmilla, while a hunchback man offers to file down Carmilla's sharp tooth, which she does not take well. Laura also discusses a sickness plaguing the countryside, killing young women. The hunchback man offers a protection from Upir. Overall, a strange supernatural occurrence seems to be happening, and no one besides the locals have any sort of solution.
So again, if you want me to hate the character, don't have them not get up until 1 o'clock. Saunter downstairs, have a cup of hot cocoa, and then go sit on a bench? No, this is my hero. Like, I love her.
Also, respecting her privacy by locking the door from the inside.
Yeah. She's perfect. Nothing wrong with her. Statues should be built in her honor.
Unproblematic queen.
Very problematic, unproblematic queen.
Yeah.
Carmilla did nothing wrong, t-shirts.
Carmilla.
Now we're talking.
I love that as a shirt, but you're going to spend all night at the party explaining to people who this is.
Yeah, for
true.
real.
That's an English major shirt. That's something you can only wear at the English department parties at the end of the semester.
True. That's true. I don't know. I mean, I think that the sort of the hunchback coming to be like, I can file down your sharp tooth. She's got sharp teeth, you see, because she's a vampire.
And Laura's just like, that guy, he's so crazy.
Yeah, he's so crazy.
So quirky.
What a quirksome.
Yeah, the Carmilla, so let's kind of look at Carmilla here, because we have a good examination into her behavior as it relates to the monstrous feminine. So, we don't know too much about Carmilla, except that she has some sort of nobility in her bloodline. That nobility comes from somewhat west of where Laura lives, so it's European, Western Europe. She goes through mood swings, so it's kind of unpredictable the way she behaves. And then, of course, she expresses her emotions so passionately in a way that would be very, inappropriate for...
Yeah,
first, the love bombing is inappropriate at any time, but especially to Victorians, this is extreme and improper.
Yeah, this is the point in the story where that quote that we were talking about earlier comes from, where Carmilla is like, I would love you.
Yeah, I love you, you shall be mine forever.
Yeah, all that jazz.
Yeah, little intense, but, if we think about it, the Victorians, because they abhor that sort of display of emotion, for her to be doing that to an English woman, and that English woman is not instantly repulsed by that, and in fact has some adoration and love for it, is terrifying, because this means that Laura herself is being corrupted. But is she being corrupted fully by Carmilla, or is the corruption coming from within? And that causes more anxiety for that audience. Whereas today we would see that as good. It's good for Laura to become more in touch with her own personal beliefs and emotions. But if only we're not Carmilla being toxic and leading her into her own web of selfishness
temptation.
and temptation.
Yeah. Can I call attention to something else? Because I did just highlight this cup of chocolate thing because I was so obsessed with it. And I just looked up my highlight and the beginning of this paragraph. And Laura does this a couple times. And maybe this is where we're to understand this as a epistolary in a way that I wasn't quite getting. But the paragraph begins, in some respects, her habits were odd, perhaps not so singular in the opinion of a town lady like you, as they appeared to us rustic people. So Laura is writing or
recording in some way.
Yeah, she's narrating this story for someone who is more worldly. And that happens a few times, and I only really recognized it because I highlighted the rest of the paragraph, which is that she came down at 1:00 and had chocolate and then sat on a bench, which I loved.
Queen behavior, obviously.
I did highlight later when she was like, oh, the singing, it's so annoying. And I was like, girl, you just, what a rock star.
She's right and she should say it.
Yeah.
Yeah. She's like, I'm sorry your daughter died, but could you find a key? Thank you.
Yeah, no, like that's a really good call out, David. Thank you. She does say that several times.
And but when we were talking about like is it an epistolary, I totally forgot about it. But yeah, like several times in the novella, she's like, "Well, you're very sophisticated, but you know we're rubes out here, so da 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 da."
And she does also like break into saying like, "Nowadays I feel differently," or "Nowadays I feel the same," or "Nowadays I still remember so vividly what happened." So it's clearly also an older Laura that is narrating her experiences from when she was much younger.
Yeah, and that's kind of fun. That's interesting.
Mm-hmm. Again, I do love that. I do love the Victorian tendency to stack your story like it's a fucking Jenga tower.
That's fun.
Mm-hmm. One evening, a picture cleaner from the city of Graz arrives with paintings he had restored, most of them coming from Laura's side of the family that originates from Hungary.
Laura's mom's side of the family, like...
Yeah, her mom's side of the family. Among these paintings is a small picture of a woman named Marcia Karnstein, who bears a shocking resemblance to Carmilla. However, the painting is dated 1698!
Ooh.
What's more, a closer examination reveals the name is actually Mircalla, the Countess of Karnstein. With that, Laura and Carmilla realize they descend from the same noble line. Carmilla and Laura continue their passionate relationship, and Carmilla continues to covet Laura. One night, Laura has another vision, this one far more frightening. Assuming Carmilla had played a trick, Laura is horrified to see that the door is still locked from the inside, a practice she picked up from Carmilla.
All right, before we get to the scary dream of scariness, the whole realization that they might be related, and then, as Tyler exactly did, they continued their passionate relationship. In a more modern telling, I think you'd have some like familial relationship panic, which is... We talked about this in the X-Files episode Home. It has to do with like who you're reared with, not necessarily who you're like blood related to. But there was none of that. They just kind of were like, what another fun coincidence about the ways in which we're close to each other. Let's get even closer. And so I don't know, I just really I liked that and I called attention to it, and I really thought that it was gonna serve itself completely. But then the whole Mircalla of it coming back in a couple chapters' time was shocking, because I was getting used to this novella just introducing things and then being like, okay, we're done with them. But nope, we were here doing a real thing.
That's so fun to call out. Thanks, David.
I wonder if it's kind of like a modern audience, like you said, would have like a familial panic because it means like, oh my god, it's incest now. But right. I kind of wonder, like, to this time period, is this like saying that like the three of us are related because we descend from a common ancestor? Like, it's just so far into the past that the incest of it all is just non-existent.
Right.
Yeah. Plus, you know, like the fact that they're all from the same noble line, I think might be important in another way, because, you know, nobility is kind of a big deal, especially in Europe and that kind of thing. So because they're all from they're from the same noble family, they're like, that's not like the Habsburged everywhere, and everybody in every modern royal is related to Queen Victoria, so It's just part of the terroir.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So, if anything, it kind of deepens their relationship because now it's like we were kind of always meant to find each other.
Mm-hmm. Frankly,
yes.
I think if this was a modern adaptation, I don't think that they would play anything like that. They would do more of like how Laura is her reincarnated lost love or something.
Yeah.
Oh my god. Probably true.
Bram Stoker's Dracula from the early 90s kind of situation with Winona Ryder.
Yes, exactly that. Thank you for picking up what I'm putting down.
Hell yeah.
Well then, can we talk about this horrifying dream?
Oh my god, yeah.
Or not dream. Or whatever this is.
Vision.
Encounter.
Something.
See, but you both said different words just then. Is it real or is it not? Because it felt very real to
I think
me
it's
when
real.
I read it. Okay.
Yeah, it could be, but like that's the thing that I also think is a little interesting. The reason why I said vision is because it could be more real than real. She could be in this dream moment seeing something that's not literally happening, but is more figuratively true.
Mm-hmm.
But
okay,
here's my question. Do we need to bring Alyssa back? Is Carmilla a werewolf?
No, she's not a werewolf.
But we should have Alyssa back, so.
I think werewolves
some beastie was going on.
Vampires can turn into animals.
Wolves.
All right.
Yes.
All right.
And so, especially because it's like, it is kind of a wolf, but I don't think it was like totally meant to be one-to-one a wolf.
No, I was getting definite like bestial vibes.
Yeah, some sort of demonic creature, like a shadow, like a hellhound or something.
Yeah.
Yes.
Or a hellcat, just something like this that like it's that fear of the unknown of the vampire. Mm-hmm. What powers does Carmilla have? Like, this feels like she should be in Professor Xavier's School for Gifted Youngsters, because she can do it all, mama.
She really can. She's living a life.
Yeah. But it's terrifying. It feels like this creature is like crawling up onto Laura. She's experiencing the nightmare in such a way that we talked about in our very first episode with that painting of the nightmare.
With the sleep paralysis. And then this feminine shape, which is supposed to be Carmilla, that just kind of seems to transport throughout the room, and then eventually she's just gone. Scary. A24 levels of fear.
Yeah, this was good. This was a really good sequence.
Mm-hmm.
And then that the door was locked the whole time, so it wasn't a trick. Also, girl, how did you think it was a trick? And why don't you have a baseball bat by your bed?
Baseball hadn't been invented yet, I fear.
That's true. Well, definitely not reaching Europe, even if some types of baseball were being played, but not in Central Europe, for sure.
One other thing I wanted to mention before we move on to the next section is that I love to see echoes of future vampire stuff here in Carmilla, because again, as an originator of a lot of tropes, a lot of stuff falls by the wayside and doesn't carry on, but some things do, and Dr. Alucard says hello in this section.
I don't even know what that means.
Dr. Acula.
Yeah, Dr. Acula, Alucard, that kind of thing.
Oh, fun. Okay.
It's a Dracula thing.
Oh my god, Mercala is an anagram of Carmilla?
Yeah!
I'm so stupid. I am literally the stupidest person in the world.
David, that was the reveal in the book. Like,
yeah,
they said it.
Nope.
There's even another other anagram later that's similar to Mercala but isn't.
My reading comprehension might have been shot by that point in time reading. I don't know what it was.
Apparently, you were reading and it was 1:30 a.m., so that probably was
that is
part
true,
of it.
But it feels like that reveal might have come after I picked up the book again and was reading it at a bright and brisk 11:30 a.m. after drinking 2 cups of coffee.
But yeah, no, I have no excuse for that. I really liked.
I do like an anagram. Every time I saw either of these words, I was struggling with how to pronounce them because I kept seeing 2 L's together, which I am learning to say differently. And so even though I knew that I had to be on this podcast saying Carmilla, every time I saw it, I thought Carmilla. And so I will tell you, anytime I saw either of these names, and Mercaya, would be a name that I would actually see around here. So that was a wild one.
Whenever I see Mercala, I think of that game Mancala.
Oh.
I love Mancala. That's a fun game.
That is such a fun game. I haven't played it since elementary school. I want to
Me
relearn
neither.
the rules and play it again. That'd be fun.
Yeah.
I think about the child actor Macaulay Culkin.
Okay, well, podcast over later.
That's a wrap on Carmilla, everybody. I'll see you in 2 weeks. Not David, though. David, stay after class.
The next morning, Carmilla shares that she also experienced a brush with terror because my girl, she got a stick. She always agrees to the dreams that you're having.
Just kidding.
But her charm from the hunchbacked man protected her.
Not a stick.
Laura, what?
Not a stick. A charm.
Oh my god. That's a stick. Laura, who had deposited her protective charm into a vase. This was the part that I had to read 3 or 4 times because I was like, girl, why? Why are you throwing your garbage into some random vase?
It's why she seemed like she was like 14. A 14-year-old dummy would do that.
She was just like, goodbye. She retrieves it and then sleeps peacefully through the night with it under her pillow. However, it doesn't take long for Laura to begin experiencing melancholy and overall depressive symptoms. Carmilla believes that the charms have been altered medicinally to prevent fever, and while Laura's condition deteriorates, Carmilla becomes more loving and more covetous. Laura becomes haunted by strange feelings as she were being caressed and kissed, as well as visions that range from a distant female voice to full-on convulsions and unconsciousness. One night, a soft voice speaks to Laura, offering a warning from her own mother that Laura's assassin is nearby. Laura sees a vision of Carmilla drenched in blood and fears that Carmilla is next to die. She, the mademoiselle, and the madame rush to the door. Servants have to force it open only to discover that Carmilla has disappeared.
Dun dun dun!
This was pretty shocking. I will, not to get ahead of ourselves in the scene description, the sort of reveal about her not being missing was then a little anticlimactic because this was high climax for me. I was like, oh my god, where'd she go? How'd she get out of this locked room? This is incredible. My mind is reeling. And then later she's just back, which I understand is supernatural and she's a vampire. But her just being back was a little nothing, but that's okay.
We have several Return of the King ending-esque moments where it feels like there's maybe 3 or 4 different opportunities for the story to wind down, and it just keeps going, which I don't know is super great for a novella that's 100 pages.
This would have been a pretty sick ending right here. This would have been a pretty sick ending because it would have left so many questions unanswered, and it would have been kind of fun.
Yeah, and then they find a clue, there's a blood bag under Carmilla's bed that says blood bag, do not touch.
God.
Dead dove inside.
Yeah.
I don't know what I expected.
The vampire juice that makes you a vampire.
The vampire juice that makes you a vampire. I hope that we remember that shtick when we eventually get back to Dracula.
I know.
I'm gonna write a note about it.
Okay. But I do the whole sequence with the door being locked and them not being able to get into it and them ringing the bell for their father who's deaf. So why do you even have this bell system? Also, pay some more goddamn taxes. You have such a big house that you can't call from your father down the hall? Good lord.
Well, he's in a different wing. They have 46 rooms in their castle.
And apparently he got this dirt cheap.
70% effective tax rate on these people.
Yeah.
The
well, they have a whole row of lime trees, David.
Okay, well, tax those motherfuckers too. Give citrus to the people. The schloss of it all. Good lord. Schloss, schloss, schloss. Every time I saw that word, I was like, it's a castle. Just call it a castle or a manor. Schloss. A word I've never seen before.
And never will again.
And hope from your words, from your lips merrily to the ears of the crater, I never want to see this word again.
Don't go looking at castles in Germany, David. Don't go looking at castles in Germany.
I will not go chasing waterfalls.
Stick to the rivers and the lakes that you're used to. Oh my god, we have to get back to Carmilla. So
we must.
Do we have to go back to Carmilla? What if we just stop the podcast?
She's gonna come get us.
Merrily, there are 3 more endings we have to get to in this novel.
Oh my god.
What do we think about the visions? I mean, it's interesting that Laura, her physical and emotional self is wearing down. becoming worse and worse, as though she were being sickened. And it's from Carmilla's, like, sapping her energy, I guess. The whole thing with the charm kind of threw me off. I didn't really get the connection with the charm. But maybe I just missed that. But
so, again, this is me extrapolating wildly. So if you have a fear-coded bingo card, go ahead and mark merely extrapolating wildly off.
It's the free space, but yeah, go for it.
But like I kind of thought that like Carmilla was using that deliberately as a way to get Laura off her guard. And I think maybe it was just like a way to like sleep more soundly. And she was using that on purpose to be able to get closer to Laura as she's sleeping. Like she even like as things are going on makes a point of, just maybe pinning it to your pillow isn't enough anymore. Just put it like right there on your nightie and it'll help you sleep even sounder. And so that's what I kind of was figuring was happening there.
Pin it to your breast, darling.
Well, I mean, that don't we all? What I was sort of visioning, Tyler, was that I almost believed that whatever was then like treated with the medicine was something that might have a side effect that was giving these visions or the sleepiness or whatever else. But I think, long story short, I was under the impression that this vision was more of a mental breakdown than a legitimate, like, I have visions vision. And yet it leads us to the climax, which is trying to get into Carmilla's room and finding her gone. So it worked however it ended up working, but it did feel a little like question mark how we got there.
I suppose it is kind of like a trope codifier of the idea that the vampire's like subject of obsession becomes like physically and emotionally worn down, because we clearly had that happen with Laura. It happens with what's his name from the Lost Boys? Michael. Yeah, it's happening. It happens to Michael, and then it also happens to Louis.
Mm-hmm.
And I would like to point out that, like, while those are all like the object of the vampire's focus, they are feeding on other people as this is going on, so as to like prolong the object of their affections, like life, and like really drain that out. Because Carmilla is like going out in the countryside killing random young women. While the disease is similar to what's happening with Laura, it's progressing at a much slower rate, and that is pointed out.
Right. And I'm glad that you pointed that out, Marilee, because I actually had some like questions about that too. Like, were we to interpret that the reason that Carmilla is gone and later is like, oh, I sleepwalked, I suppose, into a place you couldn't see me. But she was out killing, right?
Yeah. She was just draining some other lady just because she wanted Laura to be around longer.
Yeah. I got that. Okay, great. So that's what I was interpreting too. So that makes me feel better.
Okay.
Yeah. Again, I could be speculating wildly on that one as well, but that is what my interpretation was.
Whomst is to say.
Yeah. One other thing, I'd like to talk about Laura's vision with her mom's voice, because like I think it's so fucking funny that she's like, your assassin is nearby, and like has a vision of a bloody Carmilla, and stupid innocent little Laura is like, oh no, my bestie's gonna die next.
Right,
baby, your assassin's nearby and this is your thought? Insane.
She just wants that. She wants that lady.
Yeah, can't possibly be Carmilla that's bad.
Nope.
You've never done anything wrong in your life.
Yeah, no, Carmilla's done nothing wrong. We all agree. We all have the t-shirt.
Yeah, exactly.
So by dawn, Carmilla is still missing. Laura's father frets over how he will explain Carmilla's disappearance to her mother when she comes back in 3 months. However, in the afternoon, Laura goes to Carmilla's room and finds her there. Carmilla claims that she had a very eerie night and found herself on the dressing room sofa with the door unlocked and no memory of being there. Laura's father asks if Carmilla sleepwalks. She admits that she did as a child, to Laura's father's relief. Dr. Spielsberg? Is that...
Yep.
That's not how... All right, Spielberg. All right. Arrives to examine Laura and ask about her strange symptoms and visions. The doctor confers with Laura's father after, and the doctor insists that Laura never be alone. Laura's father later invites her to come with him to Karnstein, which is a nearby abandoned village and town. He is to speak with the priest there. Carmilla could come with Mademoiselle later when she wakes up in the afternoon, of course. Laura and her father leave and eventually run into General Spielsdorf along the way.
There is so much happening with this sequence. Again, like, the sort of reveal about Carmilla is almost a nothing burger, but then pretty much as soon as the doctor comes, it is like 100 miles per hour to go to this little, like, rundown village thing. Mm-hmm. And this section is like 2 pages.
Yeah.
Like, it is, so much happens in so little.
Yeah. No, and, like, the doctor gives that command that Laura is to never be alone, and then we don't even, like, carry through on that, because immediately that morning, they're like, let's go to Spielsdorf or whatever. And so, like, that's never, like, even a thing.
Yeah. God, it's interesting that her dad, like, instantly listens to what the doctor has to say.
Well, I think that, like, it's kind of, like, threaded through to this point where, like, lots of young women are dying. Laura seems to be having these same symptoms. Well, the doctor is examining Laura. He asks about her dreams and nightmares and, like, asks her to point out where on her breast she's, like, feeling these bite marks, and we never see what happens, but she describes lowering her gown an inch and the doctor examining the area, so presumably there is a bite mark. So this is actually one of the sections that kind of drove me a little crazy. Because while you guys both really like Laura, and I do find her a compelling character, this part really frustrated me because the doctor and Laura's father, they kind of talk about her condition on the other side of the room, and Laura is allowed to ask no questions. She has to be completely passive about her own care in a way that's really Victorian and drove me up a fucking wall.
Yeah, but
yeah,
this would be, like, historically.
Yeah, probably.
Norm, right?
I just think it's so passive that it is.
Does it sort of ruin her as a character for you?
Not ruin, but it does irritate the fuck out of me.
Got it.
I think then it's interesting to compare her to Carmilla in that instance then. Because Carmilla, if anything, is very much open with her opinions on things. Mm-hmm. And so when she is examined, she's, a good little patient, but there's also nothing that is, like, digging into her true nature when they ask about it.
Right.
When Carmilla, this is a little bit more of a reveal down the road, when Carmilla is revealed as a vampire, she acts very threateningly and aggressively and takes action. And so one must think about the monstrous feminine and then Laura as kind of like an angel in the house, which is another concept.
Lilith and Eve.
Yeah, that goes along with the monstrous feminine. So Laura is kind of like our Eve. She's meant to be kind of like subservient and listen to the men, even though the men didn't have any idea of what was going on. Whereas Carmilla is like, hey, there's another way to be. And then that just makes me think of Lestat talking to Louis, saying, like, these people treat you like shit. They don't respect you, but you are so much better than any of them are. Carmilla, if she were, a different time period, perhaps, might have said something similar to Laura. But Laura is still trying to figure out who she is, and thus probably can't really, like, actively seek out the answers to those questions.
Right. Well thought.
Yeah, really well said, Tyler. I appreciate that.
Thank you. My first semester in grad school was nothing but Dracula, so everything about vampires, I'm just like, I know it.
Wow.
I had no idea.
I hope one day we talk about Dracula to help make your education.
We'll see what happens.
More valuable.
See. That Dracula, I don't know. But anyway, let's talk about General Spielsdorf. So General Spielsdorf is worse for wear. He says that he's going to Karnstein as part of his mission to destroy the monsters who reside in the ruined chapel that belongs to the extinct Karnstein line. Laura and her father ask the general to share his knowledge and experiences related to the passing of his niece, and he agrees to finally tell the tale. General Spielsdorf and his niece Bertha once attended a fabulous masquerade and met two women, one older and one younger. Bertha instantly attached herself to the younger woman, while Spielsdorf conversed with the older woman. The older woman dodged his questions, but she did something very familiar. She told Spielsdorf that she was going away on some urgent business, and asked him to take care of her daughter, Malarka. The general agrees, and both he and Bertha are instantly charmed by Malarka. At one point they lose her, but in the afternoon the next day, she returns to them. As Spielsdorf continues the story, Laura notices the strange coincidences occurring in the story and her own experiences with Carmilla.
Dun dun dun!
I thought the story was annoying. I'm not gonna lie.
So what's interesting is that I thought the way that the story was told was very annoying and hard to, again, read, but I actually really liked the masquerade. I was like, ooh.
I thought it was fun.
Yeah, the masquerade was fun. It's just like, we've added a new story into the story that I'm already, like, immersed into.
That was my problem. Well, and it was all narratively done with, like, and then the general said, and then I was at the masquerade where this woman said, and just have a standalone episode. Like, just be like, chapter 9 is all about the general and his, like, tale of woe, and don't give me the surrounding, because we're now...
He said, she said, you know.
Yeah, we're a frame within a frame within a frame now. It's too much, Le Fanu. Like, sorry that you're dead and Irish, but, like, you gotta figure this out, man. This was hard to read.
Yeah.
It was.
This is excessive. I think that's part of the decadence of the time with how you would write things. It's just like, sure, I can do that. I can do whatever I want. I can add as many frames as I want. And it's like, I mean, yeah, sure, but you didn't do it very well with this one.
You know,
but I did love the masquerade.
The masquerade is fun.
They were so preoccupied with what they can do. Nobody thought to ask if they should.
God.
Exactly.
And that's why we have dinosaurs show up in the last chapter of this book.
It's a little bit of a turn, but I bought into the vision.
No expense was spared, Tyler.
John Hammond just shows up, gets eaten by Compsognathus. Oh, we got to talk about Jurassic Park someday.
Don't worry, it's on the list.
It's on the list. The book too?
Here, I can do it. Here's the ish, gang. The reason I liked the masquerade is that the moment a young woman and old woman show up, I'm like, it's Carmilla. Like, there's no irony for me as the reader. I am reading a book called Carmilla about a young woman named Carmilla who is showing up and killing people. I'm already aware of it. And the general doesn't know that Carmilla is with the family because it's not like he came over to the house. So the masquerade actually has no narrative purpose except for me to think about there being a masquerade.
Exactly. Yeah. Maybe that's why I detested it. Yeah. Like, the events of the masquerade, fun. The telling,
unnecessary.
Yeah, the telling was unnecessary. I personally always love a masquerade because they're fun and cunty. But I will say I did like the older woman because we got a lot more of her here than we did when we saw her in our own narrative, because Laura never interacts with her. We see her from a distance and she talks to Laura's dad.
The father
but
only,
here she has a lot of one-on-one conversations with the general and talking about how well she knows him, and he keeps being like, I have no fucking idea who this lady is. I'm racking my brain. She's clearly known me for a long time. Who is this lady? And I thought that was really interesting. And like, to me, it just continues to prove, like, she clearly is her own character. We have no idea who she is. She never comes back in the story after she flees in the very beginning. So what her deal is, we'll never know. But I thought she was interesting.
I love that. I love that this woman is still out large somewhere in the world. And that is scary to think about. And that makes it fun for me. It's like the end of Mary Shelley's Frankenstein, where the monster says, like, yeah, I'm going to go kill myself now. And that he just disappears. But we don't know for sure if he actually did that. So it's theoretically possible that the Frankenstein monster is still running around. Probably with this old lady that it might be Carmilla's mom.
Yeah.
Or it could be another vampire who maybe Carmilla sired to make her own life a little easier.
I kind of thought about that too, especially because I didn't mention it last week, but I did start watching the next episode of Interview with the Vampire. And, like, fucking Louis's got like a whole staff working in his Dubai tower.
Oh yeah,
Like all this vampire spawn or little like servants.
I will say no other words to you.
Ooh, that makes me excited. I'm gonna watch more after this recording.
Yeah.
Can't even look at you.
Listen, there's a lot going on with Louis in the tower.
Well, anyway, back to Carmilla.
Yeah. So I'm glad that by the end of this scene, Laura is able to start putting pieces together about Carmilla. It's like, Marilee, you were talking about the lack of agency that Laura had before. I think her being the one to start putting the pieces together indicates that she is now developing agency.
I mean, you say that, but like her dad is sitting right there, and like they're clearly going to the priest to talk about like something having to do with Carmilla being weird anyway. Like I feel like the dad probably has a lot more information than Laura does. So like I wouldn't say that she is putting together pieces that haven't been put together before, but I do like that she's like beginning to piece it together.
I think it's that agency is for herself.
Yeah.
Because I think based off of the conversation that we've all had so far, I think we can all agree that Laura is someone who is unsure of her identity, right?
Yes.
Yeah, she's a very, very sheltered young woman who's like lived with 4 people her whole life, you know?
Then I think it's fair to say that like a major character development goal for Laura is to see her develop that identity and kind of get to know herself, which means like having agency over her own like thoughts and actions. So she doesn't necessarily need to be like the brainy person in the room who's just like, oh, Carmilla's a vampire, I've solved the problem. But I think it is good for her to grow up and become an adult, basically.
Yeah. No, like her purpose for basically the rest of the story is kind of like to stand in the room and witness stuff. But like this part particularly, there's something happening here that I really enjoyed, where she's kind of like fighting her own realization that there's something weird about Carmilla, because she's like thinking about her own dear friend Carmilla, who she has all of these feelings for, and like desperately does not want her to be involved with Millarca? Millarca, that's it. He desperately does not want her to be involved with Millarca in any way, but she can't help but seeing the similarities. And I do really like that.
I do too. I love that.
The carriage carrying Laura, her father, and the general eventually reaches the ruins of Karnstein. They investigate Castle Karnstein, and the general says that the Karnstein family continued to plague the world with their, quote, atrocious lusts, even after death.
Dun dun dun.
This is where I was like, what is happening? The group hears stories about the destruction of Karnstein. The villagers managed to kill the vampires hunting Karnstein, but the village still crumbled after their terrible reign. Spielsdorf, too, recounts how Millarca, the vampire, attacked Bertha, with Bertha dying the next morning. Carmilla appears at the entrance of the chapel, and Spielsdorf attacks her. Carmilla's face changes to a brutalized expression, and she narrowly dodges the attack before disappearing. Spielsdorf then explains the truth. Millarca and Carmilla are one and the same. Now, please understand that I got that part, but did they actually, like, say, here's the anagram?
I guess not. They say... Wait, did they?
No, like, they did. They say, like, she rearranged the letters. And
you're right,
they did. I didn't get that at all. I didn't get that at all. I'm a very stupid reader.
No, you're not.
No,
this is a very purple prose kind of book.
Yeah. David, it's like you said, so much happening.
But please know,
he's probably
paid
by the word.
Yeah, he was paid by the word. I know that. But which is why you get all those things like in my youth.
Yeah, he was paid by the fucking letter. Are you kidding me? With some of these names?
3 more cents. But that being said, I did know that they were the same person. That part I did get. I just didn't get that it was an anagram.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no, like, truly, the shocking gasp of all that Millarca and Carmilla are the same person. Gasp.
I love the description of Spielsdorf going in with an axe to attack Carmilla.
That was cool.
Yeah.
That was cool.
That felt very cinematic. Very cool. I will say, like, Le Fanu, he's got some issues with, like, mechanical structure, like how to do a narrative, but when he's describing a scary scene, he does it so effectively that it's so easy to picture it in your mind's eye. Yes. If you're capable of that, Jacob, shout out to you. I know you can't. But I know, like, that this would work very well on the screen too. Like, it's such a good, like, way, like, it reminds me of a paper that I read in my undergrad about Beowulf, with how Grendel's just like this description of Grendel coming to the mead hall that Beowulf is sleeping in is written out kind of like it's a horror movie.
Mm-hmm.
And 2,000 years before we had film. And
right.
I get the same vibe here. I get the same vibe here. We have primal knowledge about what makes us scared, and great artists are able to convey that information and do it well.
Yeah, and what's the deal? Like, she grabs his arm and then, like, he drops the axe and then she, like, poofs. Like, it also takes us from, like, vaguely supernatural Carmilla into, like, oh, she's supernatural.
She a vampire, baby.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, she's a vampire.
Man, this scene was great. To close us out, eventually, Laura's father and the general and a man named Baron Vordenberg? Again, he was paid by the fucking letter on these names, I swear to God.
Not just that, but, like, a new character?
And the third, and, like, there's, like, 3 pages left. Let's drop a brand new character in.
For real. They discover Carmilla's missing resting place. Laura is sent home along with the priest to perform solemn rites at their home, and the next day, Carmilla's coffin is exhumed. Carmilla's features are warm, her eyes are open, and there is no rotting smell. And also, there are 2 inches of blood in the coffin. All signs are pointing to vampire.
Yeah, she's just having a little bath. It's fine.
Yeah. Vampire.
The vampire.
Carmilla is staked through the heart, her head is cut off, and her body is burnt to ashes.
No,
and then
overkill.
The ashes
that's
are dumped in the river.
Overkill.
So much.
But you know who would have made it through? Rasputin.
Yeah.
True.
Well, listen, we're not all Rasputin. Lover of the Russian queen. It was a shame how he carried on. Love that song. Later, although she's freed from Carmilla's immediate threat, Laura is still haunted by her experiences with the vampire. In the spring after her encounter, Laura and her father travel to Italy in hopes of finding some peace. However, Laura still awakens some nights, thinking she has heard the light footsteps of Carmilla on the drawing room door.
And here is where I went to swipe to the next page, and I swiped again, and I swiped again, and I swiped again, and I was like, okay, this is a fine ending, but we just introduced a new character. A lot of like murdering Carmilla happened in like a paragraph and a half, and then it was over. I don't know what happened here at the end. This was shocking to me.
This guy
the contract ran out.
This guy dropped a prequel. This guy dropped a prequel about Baron Vordenberg in 2 paragraphs.
Baron Vordenberg, come on the podcast.
Yeah, but it's like Vordenberg, Van Helsing.
Well, I was wondering, so because he's like a Van Helsing, right? Because he knows things about vampires.
Yeah, he's a descendant of the original vampire hunter that helped the villagers kill the Karnstein vampires.
Okay.
But
the Karnstein
I
vampires.
think there might have been. Oh God, I excluded all this stuff because I'm like, all of this is not necessary. We're here to talk about the lesbians. But there was all this lore about like he's a descendant of so and so, and they were in love with Carmilla or Malarca, and then this and that and the other thing, and they provided all this motivation as to why Carmilla became a vampire. It's like all of that is irrelevant. We're here to talk about and focus on the relationship that Laura and Carmilla have.
Right.
And to see Carmilla killed in this way, extremely violently attacking a woman's body, is horrible, first of all. But I think it's also like the return to normalcy. The men have returned to control. No more evil lesbians to worry about.
But to both of you, I ask, whose point of view is this chapter in?
She specified that she is basing this description off of official government documents that her father requested to have made, because they brought in like the local government and everything to deal with this.
I remember that now. But it all felt very like you're looking at it live, which I bought for the axe getting held and that cinematic moment. But this was all very cinematic, and yet like Laura's back home with a priest throwing holy water at the windows or whatever Catholic nonsense they're doing there.
I genuinely think Le Fanu didn't realize that, like, oh, Laura's not here to observe all this. Let me just add in real quick. Her dad requested the alderman to come observe and then record everything so my daughter can read about it. Like, it's a fucking short story of itself.
That's fine.
Yeah,
that's
for
fine.
real.
But I liked all the horror that was Carmilla's death. Mm-hmm. I did think that was effective. Mm-hmm. It felt so detached from Laura that I was like, this is a very intimate novel until the general comes back, truly. And then it ceases to be intimate. It's not about the two of them. I kind of wanted this moment of Laura, like, having to confront the idea that she loved this person and would have to lose her because she's a monster.
Yeah.
Well, you'd have to think of women as people, so I don't know about that.
I know Le Fanu probably didn't do that. But, I mean, I guess that's kind of what this ending is her being unable to let that go.
Right.
So it could be like Laura's vampire ghost is still, Carmilla's vampire's ghost is still haunting Laura, or maybe Carmilla survived the devastation that happened to her body. I've seen that theorized, and kind of discussed in more like positive femininity. Whereas I don't think that was what the intention was. I don't think it comes off that way at all. So
no,
I think
it's supposed to be spooky scary.
It's supposed to be spooky scary and not like love never dies. And it's like, actually.
Okay. So I did read it as Love Never Dies, but not in a Love Never Dies way. I read it in a very like, I'll never have this again. This was my chance, and it's gone. And that was the horror that I was left with at the end. Although, again, I kept trying to go to a next page, and it would not. So it said you were on page 37 of 37. That I was like, how is this possible?
There's a weird aside in here that's trying to explain how vampires come to be. And
yes,
it's like people who die by suicide become vampires.
And people who die from a vampire also become vampires.
Mm-hmm. It was kind of like unnecessary baggage, but I think you could draw the connection between people who die by suicide and Laura's death, and perhaps imply that maybe Laura, committed suicide so that she could be forever with Carmilla.
Okay. I mean, again, the framing never gave that to us. And maybe if I was able to page one more over and it was like a doctor's note being like, and here's my autopsy of the body. She did die by suicide. That would have been this really nice complete moment. But as it was, I still had a really good time with the
yes, I'm making something out of nothing, basically, because the Le Fanu didn't give us anything. But I think it adds a little bit more complexity, and I think it adds to the toxicity of the relationship, because, I mean, at the end of the day, like, Carmilla was not only physically harming her, but she was also mentally abusing Laura.
Mm-hmm. And gaslighting the fuck out of her.
Gaslighting, the love bombing, the covetousness, because she's constantly saying, like, you're mine, you're mine, you're mine, objectifying her. Like, in all of these stories, the relationships that vampires have with their victims is very negative. Like, there is love to it, or something close to it, or attraction,
as close that they can get to love. Like, we're very, in these three examples of vampire works that we are talking about, it is so clear that a vampire can have an object of obsession that they will focus on and are interested in, and as close as to love as that they can feel about this person, they do.
Yeah.
And how they react to that can be different. Instead, like, I do think that, there is a potential future for Laura as a vampire, but, like, she could just be haunted by the effects of what Carmilla did to her.
That's true.
And turn that way as well. Because, of course, she is a victim of a vampire attack.
Yeah. I think it's, I really enjoyed it.
It's good things to consider. Good things to consider. Well, before we wrap this one up, do you all have any other thoughts on the way in which we read this as a queer entry or a horror entry for our podcast?
I think it's I think for sure it's horror.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's absolutely queer.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it kind of speaks to the ways that we interpret queer love and how we have to process and present that love in a society that says that love is wrong.
Yeah, that's keen. That's a keen way of putting it, Tyler, because it is. We do a lot of work finding the coding around this, from films that were released in the early 20th century all the way to things that were released in the 80s. But this one is really about not just the horror of like, oh, I'm queer and no one will understand me, but also the idea of like, my very existence is monstrous. The people that I love are monstrous. Will be seen as monsters because of who we are.
I love the way that you put that, David.
So, I mean, I guess that's like, you know, we ended up picking like 3 really good examples to get this across, because I like that we had a theme throughout of like vampiric love and obsession and how we read that in a queer way. And I think we can like probably come away with this month having like a really succinct idea of like how queerness is represented in vampire fiction, and how that love is represented in vampire fiction, and how it speaks to the queer existence, which is the whole point of what we're trying to do on this podcast, is try to examine queerness through horror media and find something that speaks to our existence, and a search for truth. And I think I think we've come pretty close to that. I think this was a good month to really kind of capture everything.
Yeah.
And there's so many more vampires to come. We'll
and
obviously
all of them are gay, because every vampire is.
Yeah.
I believe it.
I'm so excited because there's so many vampires out there. These are only 3. We're going to talk about lots of vampires. We're going to have more vampire themes. We're going to have more ways to look at vampires. We're going to grow fangs and bite each other. We're going to submit to a dark brotherhood exchanged in vows of blood, and we're going to swear ourselves to Satan if we haven't done that already, to our dark lord.
Promises.
I did that last one already, but I was just trying to get ahead of our team.
Oh, okay. But yeah, you have all that and more to look forward to.
Well, and we truly have to make good on Tyler's education and talk Dracula one day. Now that I know that you were subjected to like a formal education semester of Dracula,
I'm this close to inviting my professor that taught it. By the way,
literally do it.
I wonder if she's even still at the school. I gotta ask her. I gotta snoop around with my grad school cohort and find out what's going on there.
Snoop. I don't think there's any other final thoughts for Carmilla, though.
I don't. I'm good. Does anyone else have any final thoughts about Carmilla?
Do we have any other final thoughts about vampires for May I Suck Your Blood? Because this is the last time we're going to talk about vampires for a hot minute.
Yeah. I mean, I had fun talking about vampires. I think famously I don't love Lost Boys, but I loved our conversation about it. I had a lot of fun with this novella. And I'm on the record as a huge fan of the AMC series, Interview with the Vampire, in addition to the film that we will surely one day talk about.
Yeah, for sure.
Mm-hmm. And Dracula fans, get ready for someday. Yeah.
Wow, but Marilee's right. We're not even like happening into vampirism for the next few months. I was surprised when you said we're not going to talk about them for a while, because I thought, well, surely like we must accidentally talk about a vampire, and we aren't. We're somehow not accidentally talking about a vampire for the solid 17 more episodes.
Well, go ahead and count those out, folks. And figure out when we will be talking about vampires, because we may or may not have something pretty special planned.
Yeah.
But you know what? That's all to the future. Let's look right now at the present, when we want to thank you guys so much for listening to this episode. Please remember to rate, review, and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. If you are afflicted by sleep paralysis induced by a lesbian vampire, you can share your experiences with us on Instagram and Blue Sky at FearCodedPod.
This podcast is, of course, a proud part of the Glitterjaw Queer Podcast Collective. If you would like to listen to more queer media podcasts, you can check out the full roster of Glitterjaw shows at glitterjaw.com. And Fear Coded is taking a short break to recover from having our blood sucked all month long, but fear not. Fear Coded not. We will be back in June to start Devilish Diva Month. We're going to celebrate Pride with all of you, and we thought one of the ways that we could say Happy Pride would be to celebrate some of the most famous and most infamous divas in horror films, starting with the all-time classic, Whatever Happened to Baby Jane. But for now, we will simply say goodbye.
Bye.
Bye.